Truth revealed about the legendary Sandy Koufax. At almost 90 years old, his life today reflects the hidden costs of greatness that baseball never wanted fans to see.
Koufax.
Sandy Koufax.
The man they called the left arm of God paid a heavy price for his dominance. Sandy Koufax remains one of baseball's most enigmatic figures. His career, though brief, produced a period of pitching brilliance so profound it earned him almost divine status in baseball lore. But beneath the accolades and perfect games lay a reality far more painful than most fans ever realized. From 1961 to 1966, Koufax transformed from a talented but inconsistent pitcher into perhaps the most dominant force baseball has ever seen. Those 6 magical years produced statistics that seem almost supernatural. A perfect game, 4 no-hitters, 3 Cy Young awards, an MVP, and an ERA that dipped below 2 for 3 different seasons. No pitcher in the live ball era had achieved that feat before, and none have matched it since. When Koufax took the mound, batters knew embarrassment was likely. His fastball blazed, his curveball stared at the eyes and broke to the ankles. The great Ernie Banks admitted facing Koufax was frightening. His mental approach was just as formidable as his physical gifts. He focused intently on neutralizing average hitters, knowing stars alone couldn't beat him. He prepared meticulously, avoiding distractions for 2 days before each start. What fans didn't see was the brutal toll this dominance took on his body. Behind the brilliant performances was a man in constant, excruciating pain. While spectators marveled at his perfect game and World Series heroics, Koufax endured a private torture that grew worse with each masterful inning. The trouble began in August 1964. After jamming his arm while diving back to second base during a game in Milwaukee, Koufax continued pitching through swelling and pain. Following a shutout against the Cardinals on August 16th, the severity became undeniable. His elbow swelled dramatically, described by his biographer as big as his knee with fluid pockets resembling hard-boiled eggs. He couldn't straighten his arm. The diagnosis was traumatic arthritis, an incurable condition involving the degradation of elbow cartilage. The news wasn't shared with the public. Instead, the Dodgers organization kept quiet about the extent of their stars' suffering, protecting their brand over their players' health. Yet somehow, Koufax pitched the final 2 seasons of his career, 1965 and 1966, at an astonishingly high level, winning back-to-back Cy Young awards. This remarkable achievement came at an almost unimaginable personal cost. His daily routine was more medical treatment than baseball preparation. He required cortisone injections directly into his damaged elbow joint. He took Emperin with codeine regularly, often in the middle innings of games, just to continue pitching. Butazolidine, a powerful anti-inflammatory drug originally developed for horses and later deemed unsafe for long-term human use, became part of his regimen, sometimes multiple times daily. Before each start, trainers applied a Capiscan-based ointment known as atomic bomb to his arm. This concoction, containing chili pepper extract and other irritants like turpentine, essentially created intense heat on his skin to distract from the deeper pain. After games, he immersed his elbow in ice for extended periods, trying desperately to reduce the swelling that inevitably followed his performances. The physical toll was severe and permanent. His fingers would go numb. His arms swelled grotesquely after pitching. Most tragically, his elbow eventually locked at a permanent 22-degree angle, making simple everyday tasks like combing his hair or shaving painful challenges. Beyond the physical suffering, Koufax also carried cultural burdens that few other players had to bear. As one of the most prominent Jewish athletes of his era, he faced both subtle and overt anti-Semitism throughout his career. Perhaps no moment better defined Koufax's cultural impact than his decision regarding the 1965 World Series. Game 1, scheduled for October 6th against the Minnesota Twins, fell on Yom Kippur, the holiest day in the Jewish calendar. As the undisputed ace and reigning Cy Young winner, Koufax was the obvious choice to start the opener. His stance was clear and unwavering. There was never any decision to make because there was never any possibility that I would pitch. Yom Kippur is the holiest day of the Jewish religion. The club knows I don't work that day. The decision received support from Dodgers owner Walter O'Malley, but the cultural weight fell squarely on Koufax's shoulders. Don Dresdale started Game 1 instead and struggled badly. When manager Walter Austin came to remove him, Drysdale reportedly quipped, "Hey Skip, bet you wish I was Jewish today too." Koufax returned to pitch Game 2, which the Dodgers lost, but he went on to throw complete game shutouts in Game 5 and 7, the latter on just 2 days rest, to clinch the championship and earned World Series MVP honors. It's moments like these, the kind that make you sit up on the edge of your seat, that remind us why we love baseball. And if you want to experience that feeling today, Fubo lets you stream MLB games and more, live without cable. If you want to watch the greats of today in action, to feel those Koufax-level moments unfold live, Fubo lets you do that. Hit the link in the description and try it for free. While this stand made him a hero to many Jewish Americans, providing a powerful symbol of someone achieving mainstream success while remaining committed to his heritage, it also invited criticism and anti-Semitic comments. Biographer Jane Levy documented accounts of teammates using ethnic slurs like Jew bastard and kike, sometimes behind his back, sometimes slipping out in his presence. There were suggestions that mistreatment or inconsistent playing time early in his career might have stemmed from prejudice within the organization. Because he was Jewish, valued his privacy, and showed intellectual interests beyond baseball, he was often characterized as an anti-athlete or dreamy intellectual trapped in an athlete's body, labels that carried anti-Semitic undertones. The constant scrutiny based on his identity rather than his performance likely contributed to Koufax's legendary reserve and intense desire for privacy. Being judged for who he was rather than what he accomplished would naturally lead anyone to withdraw and carefully guard their personal narrative. If the physical and cultural challenges weren't enough, Koufax also faced resistance from baseball's power structure when he tried to assert his worth as a player. Following the 1965 World Series victory, Koufax and fellow Dodgers ace Don Drisdale engaged in a landmark contract dispute with the team. This occurred during baseball's reserve clause era, when players were effectively bound to their teams indefinitely with little leverage in negotiations. Players typically dealt with management individually, and Dodgers general manager Buzzy Bavisi often used one-star salary demands against another's. Koufax and Drisdale discovered they had been played against each other in this manner. In February 1966, they responded with an unprecedented joint holdout, demanding a 3-year, $1 million contract to be negotiated as a package deal. Their strategy hinged on solidarity. One wouldn't sign unless the other signed. This unity directly challenged baseball's established power structure. The Dodgers organization resisted fiercely, opposed to both multi-year deals and negotiating with the player's agent. The team launched a public relations campaign portraying Koufax and Drisdale as greedy, resulting in significant criticism from fans and media. But the pitchers held firm. After a 32-day standoff, the holdout ended on March 30th, 1966. While they didn't achieve their 3-year goal, Koufax and Drisdale secured record-breaking 1-year contracts. $130,000 for Koufax, the highest salary in baseball, and $105,000 for Drisdale. This battle is now recognized as a pivotal moment in baseball labor history, the first significant collective action by star players challenging owners' absolute power under the reserve clause. It helped pave the way for future collective bargaining, salary arbitration, and eventually free agency. The success of their strategy demonstrated the potential power of players standing together against the entrenched system. Despite this victory, Koufax paid a price for challenging baseball status quo. His final season in 1966 was incredibly perhaps his finest. He won a career-high 27 games with a career-best 1.73 REA and earned his 3rd Cy Young Award. Yet the damage to his body had reached a critical point. By season's end, doctors, including team physician Dr. Robert Kurlan, warned him that continuing to pitch would almost certainly lead to permanent disability and loss of normal function in his left arm. On November 18, 1966, just weeks after receiving his third Cy Young Award, Sandy Koufax stunned the baseball world by announcing his retirement at the age of 30. He cited the medical advice and his desire to maintain long-term use of his arm as the primary reasons, choosing health over fame and records. He reportedly feared the long-term effects of the medications he was taking and worried about catastrophic injury if he continued. The decision was shocking, precisely because he was still, unquestionably, the best pitcher in baseball. Koufax's ordeal highlights the primitive state of sports medicine in the mid-1960s. Today, his condition might have been identified as a UCL tear treatable with Tommy John surgery. But that procedure wasn't pioneered until 1974, 8 years after Koufax retired. Dr. Frank Jobe, who developed the surgery, reportedly lamented that it wasn't available for Koufax. Facing permanent disability with no viable surgical solution, his only option was to walk away. While forced by medical necessity, Koufax's retirement was also a significant act of personal agency. At the absolute peak of his powers, receiving unanimous acclaim and record salaries, he consciously chose long-term health over more glory. He decided to buy back the future use of his arm, as he put it. In an era where athletes often push beyond breaking points, Koufax made the difficult choice for his future quality of life. Even in retirement, however, Koufax couldn't escape controversy and invasion of his privacy. In 2003, his fierce commitment to personal boundaries was tested when the New York Post's Page 6 gossip column published a blind item strongly implying he was gay and had only cooperated with Jane Levy's recent biography on the condition that she concealed this fact. Deeply offended by what he viewed as a baseless invasion of his privacy, Koufax took decisive action. He severed his 48-year relationship with the Dodgers organization, noting that both the Post and the Dodgers were owned by Rupert Murdoch's News Corporation at the time. He stated he would no longer attend spring training, visit the stadium, or participate in any team activities while News Corp remained the owner. The incident sparked considerable media discussion about journalistic ethics, the nature of gossip, Koufax's legendary privacy, and lingering stigma surrounding homosexuality in sports. Facing pressure, the New York Post issued a rare apology and retraction, admitting the item was wrong and erroneous. True to his word, Koufax remained estranged from the Dodgers throughout News Corp's ownership and the subsequent controversial tenure of Frank McCourt. Only after the team was sold to the Guggenheim Baseball Management Group in 2012 did he reconcile with the organization. In January 2013, he officially returned as a special advisor to the chairman and a spring training instructor. This episode powerfully demonstrated that Koufax's privacy wasn't merely a preference, but a core principle he would defend at significant cost. His return only after the offending ownership structure was dismantled underscored his unwavering commitment to personal boundaries. Despite his preference for privacy, Koufax has had a significant impact on subsequent generations of players, particularly pitchers within the Dodgers organization. After returning as a minor league instructor in 1979 and later as a special advisor following his reconciliation with the team, his presence became a revered resource. Numerous successful pitchers, including Dave Stewart, Clayton Kershaw, Orel Hersher, and others, have credited Koufax's mentorship as crucial to their development. His coaching style focused less on mechanical overhauls and more on mental approach and fundamental principles, famously advising Stewart simply to pull his cap lower for a more intimidating look, and reminding Kershaw to stay tall. Sandy Koufax occupies a unique place in baseball history due to an unparalleled combination of factors. His statistical peak remains one of the most dominant stretches ever recorded, producing iconic moments etched in baseball lore. Beyond the field, his Yom Kippur decision made him a lasting symbol of Jewish identity in America. His integrity was demonstrated by his retirement at his peak and his principled stance during the 1966 holdout. What makes Koufax truly singular is how his legacy is defined as much by absence as presence. His abrupt retirement at 30, following perhaps his greatest season, left an indelible mark, freezing him in time at his absolute peak. This sudden departure created what-if scenarios that fuel endless debate. His subsequent decades spent largely outside the public spotlight only amplified his mystique. Today, as Koufax approaches 90, his story remains a cautionary tale about the physical price of athletic greatness. We celebrate his perfect games and strikeouts, but often forget the permanent damage to his body, the discrimination he faced, and the battles he fought against baseball's power structure. The truth baseball never fully acknowledged is that Koufax's greatness came at tremendous personal cost. Physical pain that never truly went away, cultural burdens few others had to bear, and a lifelong struggle to protect his privacy in an increasingly intrusive world. His arm may have seemed divine on the mound, but the man attached to it paid a very human price for every perfect inning. Sandy Koufax deserves to be remembered not just for his statistics and accolades, but for everything he sacrificed to achieve them. The left arm of God was also the arm of a man who hurt, who struggled, who stood up for his principles, and who ultimately chose his future well-being over baseball immortality. That is the truth about Sandy Koufax that fans rarely consider when marveling at his records. Behind every no-hitter was excruciating pain. Behind every strikeout was a cortisone shot or painkiller. Behind the World Series glory was a body breaking down far too soon. The price of greatness is never what it seems.
Mark Grace's suspension didn't come out of nowhere. It was the result of a horrifying DUI. And to make things worse, it wasn't even his first.
Mark Grace taking an indefinite leave of absence from the team.
One DUI is bad enough, but he had two. But that's not the only thing that's hurt his reputation. His time as a broadcaster has been just as messy, thanks to sexist comments and behavior that have only made things worse. Grace's troubles go way beyond just being a former baseball star. His issues off the field have followed him for years, damaging his reputation and costing him jobs. His legal troubles, questionable behavior in the broadcast booth, and controversial comments have all played a role in shaping the way people see him today. It all started with his troubles behind the wheel. Grace found himself in legal trouble, not just once, but twice for driving under the influence. His first arrest came in May 2011, a serious offense on its own, but he didn't seem to learn from that mistake. Just over a year later, in August 2012, he was arrested again for DUI, and this time, the situation was much worse. He was pulled over in Scottsdale, Arizona, and faced multiple charges. In addition to being suspected of driving under the influence, authorities discovered that he was driving with a suspended license, which only made matters worse. To top it off, he had failed to install an interlock device in his car, a requirement for people with prior DUI offenses. These violations painted a troubling picture, showing a pattern of reckless behavior. Things took an even more serious turn in October of that year, when a grand jury reviewed the case and indicted him on 4 felony counts. This meant his legal troubles had escalated far beyond a simple DUI charge. He was now facing potentially life-changing consequences. The Arizona Diamondbacks, where Grace had been working as a broadcaster, didn't waste any time distancing themselves from him. The day after his indictment, the team announced that he wouldn't be returning to the broadcast booth. A few months later, in January 2013, he pleaded guilty and received a 4-month jail sentence. However, his punishment didn't end there. In addition to serving time behind bars, he was placed on supervised probation for 2 years, meaning he had to regularly check in with authorities and follow strict rules to avoid further trouble. On top of that, he was required to have an interlock device installed in his vehicle for 6 months, preventing him from driving unless he passed a breathalyzer test. These measures were put in place to ensure he stayed accountable and didn't repeat his mistakes. While his DUI arrests were damaging enough, they weren't the only things that put a dent in his reputation. His behavior and comments, both in interviews and on live broadcasts, have sparked plenty of controversy over the years. One of the earliest examples of his controversial moments came in 2003 during an interview with Jim Rome. During the conversation, Grace made remarks that many people found crude, offensive, and sexist. He described a rather inappropriate method for breaking out of a sports slump, and his words quickly sparked backlash. The criticism was immediate, but the impact of that moment didn't fade over time. Instead, it became something that followed him throughout his career, damaging his reputation. Even when he transitioned into broadcasting, he struggled to stay out of trouble. Rather than learning from past mistakes, he continued to find himself at the center of controversy, making it clear that keeping a low profile was not his strong suit. Over the years, Grace has been criticized for his behavior while on air. There have even been times when viewers and critics questioned whether he was impaired during broadcasts. One of his biggest broadcasting blunders came in 2020 when he made an offhand remark about his ex-wife during a live broadcast. Without thinking, he referred to her as the dingbat, a comment that instantly sparked outrage. Viewers were quick to react, taking to social media to express their frustration, while media outlets also jumped on the controversy, criticizing him for his choice of words. The backlash was swift and widespread, with many people calling his remark disrespectful and unprofessional. His history of making controversial comments only made things worse, as critics pointed out that this was yet another example of his inability to filter himself on air. The reaction was strong enough that his employer had no choice but to take action. As a result, he was suspended once again, adding another stain to his already troubled broadcasting career. His actions have certainly cast a shadow over what was otherwise a strong career with impressive records. Grace's journey to the big leagues started long before he became a household name in baseball. Growing up in California, he was a talented athlete who stood out in multiple sports. He played both baseball and basketball at Tustin High School in Tustin, California, showing early on that he had the skills to go far. Even back then, it was clear that baseball was his true passion, and he worked hard to sharpen his game. After graduating in 1982, Grace didn't jump straight into a big-time college program. Instead, he took a different path, attending Saddleback College, a community college where he continued developing as a player. His time there helped him gain more experience and confidence on the field. Eventually, his talent caught the attention of a bigger school, and he transferred to San Diego State University to play for the San Diego State Aztecs. By the time he was 19, Grace had already made enough of an impression for Major League Baseball teams to take notice. In the 1984 MLB draft, the Minnesota Twins selected him in the 15th round, seeing potential in his abilities. But instead of signing with them and beginning his professional career right away, Grace decided to hold off. He wasn't ready to take that leap just yet, and instead chose to continue playing at the college level, fine-tuning his skills before making his next move. His journey to becoming one of the most consistent hitters of his time truly took off when the Chicago Cubs selected him in the 1985 Major League Baseball draft. But like most players, he didn't jump straight to the big leagues. Instead, he spent 3 years working his way through the Cubs' minor league system, sharpening his skills and proving that he was ready for the next level. All that hard work finally paid off on May 2nd, 1988, when he made his long-awaited Major League debut. Once he arrived in Chicago, Grace quickly became a key part of the Cubs lineup. He played alongside some of the franchise's biggest stars, including Ryne Sandberg, Andre Dawson, Shawan Dunston, and later, Sammy Sosa. Surrounded by such talent, Grace still managed to stand out as one of the most reliable and consistent hitters on the team. Over his 16-year career, he racked up an impressive 2,445 hits and more than 500 doubles, proving time and time again that he was a tough out at the plate. For several seasons, he was even trusted with the cleanup spot in the Cubs' batting order, a role that showed just how much faith the team had in his ability to drive in runs. His numbers throughout his career speak for themselves. He finished with a strong .383 on-base percentage, showing his ability to not only make contact, but also get on base consistently. His defense was just as strong as his hitting, earning him 4 Gold Glove awards for his work at first base. And when it came to being recognized among the league's best, Grace was a 3-time All-Star, earning selections in 1993, 1995, and 1997. Grace was especially dominant during the 1990s, putting up numbers that few could match. He led all major league players in total hits during the decade with 1,754, as well as in doubles with 364. To this day, he and Pete Rose remain the only 2 players in MLB history to lead an entire decade in hits and not be inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame. He also had the most sacrifice flies in the 90s with 73, proving that he was always willing to do what it took to help his team score runs. Beyond his individual achievements, Grace also played a major role in the Cubs' success. He helped lead them to the NL East Division title in 1989 and then to the NL wildcard in 1998, giving Chicago fans plenty to cheer about. His performance in the 1989 National League Championship Series was nothing short of spectacular. In that 5-game series, he batted an astonishing .647, hitting a home run and 3 doubles while driving in 8 of the Cubs' total 16 runs. Even though the Cubs fell short in the series, Grace's performance was unforgettable. One of his best all-around seasons came in 1993, when he led the team in multiple offensive categories, including batting average, on-base percentage, hits, walks, doubles, and runs batted in, which was a career high for him. That same season, he hit for the cycle on May 9th, a rare achievement that only a handful of Cubs players have ever accomplished. As of the end of the 2018 season, he remains the most recent Cubs player to have done it. In 1995, Grace continued to show why he was one of the most valuable hitters in baseball. He put together another incredible season, batting .326 with a .395 on-base percentage and a .516 slugging percentage. He also led the entire National League with 51 doubles, once again proving his ability to find the gaps and keep the offense moving. His efforts earned him his second All-Star selection, and by that point, he had firmly established himself as one of the best first basemen in the game. As Grace's time with the Chicago Cubs came to an end, he didn't quite leave the game. He still had plenty of baseball left in him, and when the Cubs declined to offer him salary arbitration after the 2000 season, he found a new home with the Arizona Diamondbacks. On December 8, 2000, Grace signed a 2-year, $6 million contract with the team, which also included a mutual option for a 3rd year at $3 million in 2003. Although he had been making $5.3 million in his final season with the Cubs, Grace actually took a pay cut to join the Diamondbacks. But for him, it wasn't just about the money. Moving to Arizona gave him the chance to live full-time in Scottsdale, where he had already established a home with his family. At the time of his signing, he made it clear that staying in Chicago simply wasn't in the cards. For me to remain a Cub, the Cubs would have wanted to want me back, and the Cubs would have had to win, he said. Neither of those happened, and I'm one proud Diamondback now. Wearing his familiar number 17, Grace continued to do what he did best: play solid first base and deliver at the plate. He spent 3 more seasons in Arizona, and while his regular season contributions were valuable, his biggest impact came in the postseason. In just his 2nd year with the team, he helped lead the Diamondbacks to a championship run that ended with them hoisting the trophy as the 2001 World Series champions. For someone who had spent his entire career in the National League, Yankee Stadium was unfamiliar territory. He had never even set foot there before the World Series. But that didn't stop him from making his mark. In Game 4, he smashed a home run, proving that even on baseball's biggest stage, he could deliver in clutch moments. His most memorable moment, however, came in Game 7. With the Diamondbacks trailing in the bottom of the 9th inning, Grace led off with a single, his 3rd hit of the game, off legendary Yankees closer Mariano Rivera. That hit sparked a rally that would eventually lead to one of the most dramatic World Series victories in history, securing Arizona's first ever championship. Beyond the World Series, Grace also holds an impressive postseason record. His career .515 batting average in League Championship Series games is the highest of any player who has played in at least 10 games. That stat alone speaks to his ability to shine under pressure. While Grace was known for his skills as a hitter and fielder, he also had a great sense of humor, which was on full display in 2002. During a September game against the Los Angeles Dodgers, things got out of hand as the Diamondbacks found themselves on the wrong side of a 19-1 blowout. With the game all but over, Grace took the mound as a relief pitcher, adding a little lightheartedness to an otherwise brutal loss. His pitching debut wasn't exactly dominant. He gave up a home run to David Ross, marking the catcher's first career homer. But fans love seeing a position player take the mound. To make things even more entertaining, Grace decided to have a little fun by mimicking teammate Mike Fetter's exaggerated pitching motion. The moment became a fan favorite, and showed that, even in tough times, Grace knew how to keep the game fun. By the time the 2003 season rolled around, Grace knew his playing days were coming to an end. After spending 16 years in Major League Baseball and making a name for himself with both the Cubs and Diamondbacks, he decided it was time to step away. On September 26, 2003, he officially announced his retirement from the game. Even after retiring as a player, Grace wasn't ready to walk away from baseball entirely. His love for the game ran too deep, and he had his sights set on staying involved in a new role, this time from the dugout rather than the batter's box. He had long expressed interest in one day managing a major league team, hoping to take on the challenge of leading a club from the top step. After the 2004 season, Grace's name was even in the mix for the Arizona Diamondbacks managerial position. With his deep baseball knowledge, leadership qualities, and World Series experience, he seemed like a strong candidate to take over the team he had helped win a championship just a few years earlier. However, when it came time to make a decision, the organization ultimately chose Bob Melvin for the job, passing over Grace for the position. Although managing in the big leagues didn't happen for him at that time, Grace wasn't discouraged. He remained committed to staying in the game, and in 2014, he took on a coaching role in the Diamondbacks minor league system. He joined the Hillsboro Hops, the team's Class A short-season affiliate in the Northwest League, serving as their hitting coach. It was a step toward gaining experience on the coaching side of baseball, working with young players and helping them develop their skills at the plate. Grace's time in the minors didn't last long, though. His contributions as a hitting coach in Hillsboro were recognized, and in 2015, the Diamondbacks promoted him to the Major League staff as their new hitting coach. It was a big opportunity for Grace, as he now had the chance to work directly with big league hitters, helping them fine-tune their approach at the plate and improve their overall production. For someone with his experience and knowledge of the game, it seemed like the perfect fit. Coaching at the major league level is a rare and valuable opportunity, and Grace was eager to make an impact. However, things didn't go as planned. Despite his efforts, the Diamondbacks struggled offensively, failing to put up the numbers the team had hoped for. Hitting slumps, inconsistency, and underperformance plagued the lineup. And as is often the case in baseball, when a team underachieves, changes must be made. After the 2016 season, the organization decided to part ways with Grace, bringing his time as a coach to an abrupt end. It was undoubtedly a disappointing end to his tenure with the team, as he had hoped to leave a lasting mark on the players he worked with. However, the setback didn't change his passion for the game. Baseball had been a central part of his life for decades. And even though his coaching role didn't last as long as he had wanted, he remained dedicated to the sport that had shaped his career. Even after stepping away from his coaching role, Mark Grace wasn't ready to leave baseball behind. His passion for the game kept pulling him back, and he found a new way to stay involved, this time as a television color commentator. His deep knowledge of baseball, combined with his lively personality and signature sense of humor, made him a natural fit for the broadcast booth. Grace had always been known for his charisma and ability to connect with fans, so when he transitioned from playing on the field to calling the action from the booth, it felt like a seamless move. His years of experience as a player gave him valuable insight, allowing him to break down plays and strategies in a way that was both informative and engaging. Grace quickly became a familiar voice for Arizona Diamondbacks fans, working as a commentator for the team's television broadcasts. His energetic and sometimes unfiltered style made him stand out, and fans enjoyed hearing his perspective on the game. But he didn't limit himself to just covering the Diamondbacks. Before long, he expanded his reach and landed a role with Fox Saturday Baseball, giving him the opportunity to call games on a national stage. This was a major step in his broadcasting career, as it allowed him to bring his unique personality and deep baseball knowledge to a wider audience. True to form, Grace brought his own flair to the broadcasts, using colorful and sometimes off-the-wall phrases that quickly became a signature part of his style. Instead of sticking to the usual commentary cliches, he added his own touch with expressions like slump buster, never say Diamondbacks, and gas, each one injecting a little extra personality into his calls. Fans came to appreciate these signature sayings, as they added a fun and memorable twist to his broadcasts. Whether he was breaking down a key play, sharing a personal story, or cracking a joke, Grace made sure his time in the booth was never dull. During his early years as a broadcaster, Grace was paired with Tom Brenneman from 2004 to 2006, creating a dynamic duo in the booth. When Brenneman moved on, Grace teamed up with Darren Sutton from 2007 to 2012, forming another well-known broadcasting partnership for Diamondbacks coverage. Beyond his work with the Diamondbacks, Grace expanded his broadcasting career by joining Fox Sports in 2007. His role with the network gave him the chance to showcase his baseball knowledge on a larger stage. At first, he rotated between working in the studio and calling games as part of the network's number 3 broadcast team. Though he was relatively new to national television, his experience as a former player, combined with his natural ability to break down the game, helped him stand out among other analysts. His time in the booth didn't go unnoticed. Viewers and network executives took note of his energetic style and entertaining commentary, leading to a big opportunity. In 2008, Grace was promoted to the network's number 2 broadcast team, where he reunited with play-by-play announcer Tom Brenneman. For the next 2 seasons, the duo worked together, calling some of the biggest matchups in baseball. Grace's growing presence on national broadcasts further cemented his reputation as a colorful and knowledgeable analyst. By 2010, he found himself working alongside veteran broadcaster Dick Stockton, continuing to bring his signature enthusiasm and insight to every game he covered. Then in 2011, he reunited with Brenneman once again for what would ultimately be his final season with Fox Sports. After the season ended, the network decided to make a change, replacing Grace with former MLB first baseman Eric Karros. It was an unexpected shift, and just like that, his time with Fox Sports had come to an end. Unfortunately, Grace's broadcasting career took another hit in 2012 when he requested an indefinite leave of absence from his role with the Diamondbacks. Though the reasons were not immediately clear, it was a sign that things were beginning to change for him. Later that year, the Diamondbacks made it official, announcing that Grace would not be returning for the 2013 season. However, after a few years away from the booth, Grace found his way back into broadcasting. In February 2017, he rejoined Fox Sports Arizona as a baseball analyst for Diamondbacks games, proving that his connection to the game was still strong. Then in 2020, Grace took another big step in his broadcasting career by expanding his duties even further. That year, he was hired by Marquee Sports Network to work as an analyst for select Chicago Cubs games. For Grace, this was a homecoming of sorts, as he had spent a large part of his playing career with the Cubs and remained a beloved figure among the team's fan base. His deep connection to the franchise, combined with his lively personality and sharp baseball mind, made him a natural fit for the role. Despite taking on this new opportunity with the Cubs, Grace didn't step away from his longtime position with the Diamondbacks. He continued to serve as the lead color commentator for the team's broadcasts on Fox Sports Arizona, balancing his responsibilities between both teams. Juggling 2 broadcasting roles wasn't easy, but Grace embraced the challenge. Whether he was breaking down games for Cubs fans in Chicago or calling Diamondbacks action in Arizona, he brought the same energy, humor, and insight that had made him a fan favorite in the booth. His ability to work with both organizations highlighted not only his versatility as a broadcaster, but also his lasting impact on the game. Grace's career had taken him from the field to the booth, and now with 2 teams relying on his expertise, he was proving once again that his passion for baseball and his ability to connect with fans was as strong as ever. On the field, he was a fan favorite, a clutch hitter, and a key piece of both the Chicago Cubs and the Arizona Diamondbacks. His ability to consistently get on base, rack up hits, and play solid defense earned him multiple Gold Glove awards and a reputation as one of the best first basemen of his time. His biggest moment came in 2001 when he helped the Diamondbacks win their first World Series, even delivering a crucial hit in Game 7 against the Yankees. After retiring, Grace transitioned into coaching and broadcasting. He had dreams of managing a major league team but never got the chance. Instead, he spent time as a hitting coach, trying to pass on his knowledge to younger players. While his coaching career was short-lived, his work as a broadcaster kept him in the game for years. His unique personality and memorable catchphrases made him entertaining to listen to, whether he was calling games for the Diamondbacks, Cubs, or on national broadcasts with Fox Sports. But despite all his success, controversy followed him. Multiple DUI arrests tarnished his reputation, leading to suspensions and time away from the spotlight. His off-the-cuff comments during broadcasts also drew criticism, with some finding his humor inappropriate. One of the biggest incidents came in 2020 when he referred to his ex-wife as the dingbat on air, which led to another suspension. Grace's legacy is a complicated one. He was a talented player, a charismatic broadcaster, and a man who struggled with personal missteps. His career had incredible moments, but his controversies will always be a part of his story. That wraps up today's video. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss an update. See you in the next one. Bye.
Will Cordero's career came crashing down when his wife's revelation about his abusive behavior shocked everyone. The dark crime he committed didn't just stain his reputation, it completely overshadowed his time on the field. The scandal was too big to brush aside, and his team had no choice but to release him. His promising career was ultimately destroyed by his own actions. It all started in 1997 when he pleaded guilty to assault and battery against his former wife, Anna. This revelation shocked the baseball world and put his off-the-field behavior under intense scrutiny. Later that same year, things only got worse for him when a restraining order was issued against him in Puerto Rico for allegedly threatening his wife. These incidents showed a man struggling as his personal life fell apart for everyone to see. All of these incidents had a devastating impact on Cordero's career. The Boston Red Sox, unwilling to tolerate such behavior, made a bold and unprecedented decision in 1997. They released him following his domestic violence incident. At the time, Major League Baseball had no official policy in place for handling domestic violence cases, so it was extremely rare for a team to take such a strong stand. In fact, it is now documented that before MLB introduced its official domestic policy in 2015, the Boston Red Sox were the first team to take direct action against a player for domestic violence. That player was Will Cordero. The trouble didn't stop there. In 1999, Cordero found himself in legal trouble once again, this time in New York, where he was arrested and charged with disturbing the peace. The incident reportedly involved an altercation with his wife's former husband, further adding to his already tarnished reputation. Then, in 2002, he was arrested yet again, this time in Orlando, Florida, on charges of battery in a domestic violence case. However, the case was eventually dropped when the alleged victim refused to participate in the prosecution. Even though he avoided legal consequences in that instance, the damage to his reputation was undeniable. His time on the field was also filled with struggles, as injuries and his own behavior constantly held him back from reaching his full potential. In 1992, he had a golden opportunity to make the Montreal Expos opening day roster, an impressive feat considering he had signed with the team less than 4 years earlier at just 16 years old. It was the kind of chance every young player dreams of, an opportunity to prove himself at the highest level of baseball. But as spring training unfolded, things didn't go the way he had hoped. Despite his talent, he struggled at the plate, striking out a staggering 17 times in just 38 at-bats. His lack of consistency made it clear to the Expos management that he wasn't quite ready for the big leagues yet. Instead of breaking camp with the team, he was sent down to AAA Indianapolis to continue refining his skills. Although the demotion was disappointing, Cordero didn't have to wait too long to get another shot. After the All-Star break, he was called up to the majors, finally getting his chance to play for the Expos. When he finally stepped onto the field, he was determined to make the most of his opportunity. Every at-bat, every inning, and every game felt like a chance to prove that he belonged in the majors. And he didn't disappoint. By the time the season came to an end, he had put up an impressive .314 batting average in 45 games, showing that he had the talent to compete at the highest level. His ability to make solid contact and deliver clutch hits didn't go unnoticed. He approached each plate appearance with confidence, displaying the kind of poise rarely seen in young players. Whether it was driving the ball into the gaps or simply putting the ball in play when his team needed it most, he demonstrated the skills of a reliable hitter. His performance at the plate suggested that he could be a long-term asset for his team. However, despite his success with the bat, his rookie season was anything but smooth. Injuries and bad luck seemed to follow him wherever he went, making it nearly impossible for him to gain any real momentum. Just when it looked like he was settling in and finding his rhythm, something would happen to knock him off course. Throughout the season, Cordero battled multiple health issues that kept him off the field for significant stretches. He suffered a sprained ankle, which made it difficult to move around the bases and affected his defensive play. Just as he was beginning to recover and get back into the rhythm of playing, another setback struck. This time, it was a strained middle finger on his throwing hand, an injury that might not sound serious at first, but had a major impact on his game. Every time he tried to grip the bat, he felt discomfort, making it difficult to swing with confidence. The injury also affected his ability to make strong, accurate throws, further complicating his return to full strength. For a player still trying to establish himself in the big leagues, every missed game felt like a step backward. He wanted nothing more than to be on the field, proving his worth to his team, but his body wasn't cooperating. Just when he thought he was moving past one issue, another seemed to take its place. But perhaps the most unexpected setback of all came in the form of something completely out of his control, a severe case of chickenpox. It was the kind of illness that most people deal with as children, but for a professional athlete in the middle of a season, it was a rare and frustrating challenge. The illness left him physically drained, robbing him of the strength and energy he needed to compete at the highest level. He was sidelined yet again, forced to watch from the sidelines as his teammates continued without him. The combination of injuries and illness made it feel like he just couldn't catch a break. Each time he was close to getting back on track, something else seemed to slow him down. He was known as a line drive hitter, someone who could make solid contact and find gaps in the defense. When he finally got the opportunity to play his first full season in the majors in 1993, it was a defining moment in his career. After years of working his way through the minor leagues and dealing with injuries, he was eager to prove that he belonged at the highest level. Stepping onto the field as an everyday player was both exciting and challenging, but he embraced the opportunity and gave it everything he had. At the plate, he put up respectable numbers. He finished the year with a .248 batting average, 10 home runs, and 58 RBIs. While those numbers weren't jaw-dropping, they were solid for a young player still finding his footing in the league. More importantly, they showed that he had the potential to be a consistent offensive contributor. He displayed flashes of power and the ability to drive in runs, which gave his team hope that he could develop into a reliable middle-of-the-order hitter. But while his offense showed promise, his performance on defense was a different story. Playing shortstop, a position that demanded quick reflexes, strong footwork, and a reliable glove, he struggled to keep up with the defensive expectations of the major leagues. His range was below average, making it difficult for him to get to balls that more skilled shortstops would have handled with ease. He also committed a high number of errors, which became a growing concern for his coaches and teammates. Every misstep in the field added pressure to his game. He knew that if he wanted to secure a long-term role in the big leagues, he had to improve defensively. But with every routine ground ball that got past him and every throw that missed its target, doubts began to creep in. Could he handle the demands of playing shortstop at the major league level, or would his defensive struggles ultimately hold him back? Despite his shortcomings in the field, his first full season proved that he had value as a hitter. He had taken an important step in his career, showing that he could handle the daily grind of a long season and contribute with his bat. The challenge now was finding a way to either improve his defense or transition to a position that better suited his skill set. Playing shortstop, Cordero struggled in the field. His range was below average, meaning he had trouble covering ground and getting to balls that other shortstops could reach. On top of that, his high error rate made him a liability at a position where reliability is crucial. The Expos had hoped he would develop into a solid defender, but it quickly became clear that his glove wasn't going to be his strong suit. Despite his defensive struggles, the team stuck with him, recognizing that his bat had value. The following season, in 1994, Cordero took a big step forward, proving that he was more than just a decent hitter. He had the best offensive year of his career, finishing with a career-high .294 batting average. He also displayed increased power, belting 15 home runs and driving in 63 runs. On top of that, he showcased his ability to hit for extra bases, racking up 35 doubles and scoring 65 runs. His strong performance earned him a spot on the National League All-Star team, a huge milestone for any player and a sign that he was establishing himself as a key piece of the Expos lineup. Unfortunately, the season was cut short due to the infamous players' strike, bringing an abrupt end to what could have been an even more impressive campaign. Despite the disappointment of the strike-shortened season, Cordero continued to hit well in 1995. He followed up his breakout year with another solid performance, batting .286. While he didn't quite match the numbers he put up the previous season, he remained an important part of the Expos' offense. Heading into the 1996 season, he found himself in a new chapter of his career. The Montreal Expos, the team that had signed him as a teenager and developed him into a major leaguer, decided to move on. They traded him to the Boston Red Sox in exchange for pitchers Rahel Cormier and Shane Bennett, along with first baseman Ryan McGuire. For Cordero, this was both an opportunity and a challenge. He was joining a historic franchise with a passionate fan base, but he would also need to prove himself in a new environment. However, his first season in Boston didn't go as smoothly as he had hoped. Nagging injuries kept him from staying on the field consistently, preventing him from getting into a rhythm at the plate. On top of that, the Red Sox already had an established shortstop in John Valentine, which meant Cordero had to adjust to a new role. Instead of playing his usual position, he was moved around the field, spending time at second base and as a designated hitter. These changes, combined with his injuries, limited him to just 59 games that season. It was a frustrating year, but he remained determined to bounce back. In 1997, Cordero got a fresh start in a different position. With shortstop no longer an option, the Red Sox moved him to left field, and surprisingly, he adapted well. In fact, he became an above-average defender at that position, a major improvement from his struggles in the infield. After years of being criticized for his defensive shortcomings, he finally found a role where he could make a positive impact with his glove. His transition to the outfield wasn't just about filling a spot. It was about proving that he could be a well-rounded player, capable of contributing on both sides of the game. But it wasn't just his defense that stood out. His bat finally came alive in a big way. For the first time in his career, everything seemed to click at the plate. He displayed a new level of consistency, delivering key hits and driving in runs when his team needed them most. The power that scouts had long believed he possessed started to show up more frequently, and his confidence at the plate was evident. That year, he posted the best numbers of his career, setting personal bests in nearly every major offensive category. It was the kind of breakout season that players dream of, one where all the hard work, struggles, and adjustments finally paid off. He played in a career-high 140 games, proving that he could stay healthy and contribute regularly over a full season. Durability had often been a concern for him in the past, but now he was showing that he could handle the grind of a long season without missing significant time. His offensive production wasn't just as impressive as his ability to stay on the field. He launched 18 home runs, drove in 72 runs, crossed the plate 82 times, and collected 160 hits. These weren't just respectable numbers. They were the kind of stats that made people take notice. For the first time, it looked like he was truly reaching his full potential. After years of ups and downs, flashes of talent, and frustrating inconsistencies, he finally put together a season that showcased just how good he could be. The question now was whether he could keep it going. But just when it looked like things were falling into place for him, everything came crashing down. At the end of the 1997 season, the Red Sox made a shocking decision. They released Cordero. This wasn't because of his on-field performance, but rather due to a serious issue off the field. A domestic violence incident involving his former wife had come to light, and the news spread quickly, leaving many in the baseball world stunned and disappointed. The Boston Red Sox, unwilling to associate themselves with the controversy, made the decision to cut ties with him. They released him at the end of the 1997 season, making it clear that they wanted nothing to do with a player facing such serious allegations. At the time, this move was almost unheard of. Major League Baseball had no official policy regarding domestic violence, meaning teams were not obligated to take disciplinary action for off-the-field behavior. Yet, the Red Sox took a firm and decisive stance, becoming one of the first organizations to hold a player accountable for personal conduct outside the game. Their decision set a precedent, sending a message that actions away from the field could have real consequences for a player's career. With his reputation badly damaged, Cordero's future in professional baseball was suddenly filled with uncertainty. Once a promising talent, he now found himself in a difficult position. Teams were hesitant to take a chance on him, knowing the backlash that might come with signing a player linked to domestic violence. His career, which had already been plagued by injuries and inconsistency, was now at risk of ending far sooner than expected. Despite the controversy surrounding him, the Chicago White Sox saw an opportunity. Willing to look past his personal troubles, they decided to offer him another chance. Signing with Chicago gave Cordero an opportunity to continue playing, but it also came with immense pressure. He had to prove that he still belonged in Major League Baseball while also dealing with the cloud of his past actions hanging over him. For Cordero, this was more than just another team change. It was a fight to keep his career alive. The road ahead would not be easy, but for now, he had one more shot to prove himself on the field. As he entered the later stages of his career, he found himself bouncing from team to team, trying to hold on to his place in Major League Baseball. From 1998 to 2004, Will Cordero found himself constantly on the move, playing for 5 different teams. Among them were 2 separate stints with the Cleveland Indians and a full season back with the Montreal Expos, the team that had originally given him his big break. While he still had moments where he could contribute, consistency became harder to maintain. Injuries and the natural wear and tear of a long baseball career were starting to take their toll. Finding a stable role on a team became more difficult with each passing season. By 2004, his body was beginning to break down. Years of playing at the highest level had caught up with him, and the pain was becoming impossible to ignore. That year, he was forced to undergo arthroscopic knee surgery. The procedure sidelined him for the entire season, a major setback for any player, but especially for someone in his mid-30s. For many veterans, missing an entire year of baseball signals the beginning of the end. Returning to the game after such a long layoff is never easy, and the question loomed, would Cordero ever make it back? But he wasn't ready to walk away just yet. Determined to keep his career alive, he pushed forward and prepared for one last attempt at a comeback. In 2005, he signed with the Washington Nationals, the renamed version of the Montreal Expos franchise. Reuniting with the organization that had first brought him into the majors felt like a fresh start. Unfortunately, things didn't go as planned. His time away from the game, combined with lingering knee issues, made it difficult to return to form. What was supposed to be a new chapter in his career quickly turned into an uphill battle. His comeback attempt with the Nationals would prove to be short-lived. Knee problems continued to slow him down, and his performance at the plate suffered greatly. In 29 games that season, he managed just a .118 batting average with only 2 RBIs, struggling to make any real impact. With his production at an all-time low and his struggles at the plate showing no signs of improvement, the Washington Nationals were left with a difficult decision. The team had given him a chance to contribute, but his numbers had fallen off dramatically. Battling persistent knee problems and declining performance, he was no longer the reliable hitter he once had been. The front office ultimately decided that it was time to move on. On July 25, 2005, the Nationals placed Cordero on waivers with the intention of granting him his unconditional release. For the 33-year-old veteran, it was a crushing reality check. Just a few years earlier, he had been an all-star, a player capable of making an impact in the lineup. Now, he was struggling just to stay in the league, his future in professional baseball hanging by a thread. The release was more than just a roster move. It was a signal that his career was in serious jeopardy. Cordero had spent over a decade in the majors, playing for multiple teams and experiencing both the highs of success and the lows of setbacks. But this moment felt different. He was no longer a young player with potential, and the opportunities to prove himself were becoming scarce. With his time in Washington officially over, he faced an uncertain road ahead, unsure if another team would be willing to take a chance on him. Despite his struggles, the New York Mets saw potential in him and decided to take a chance. Just 2 days after his release from the Nationals, the Mets signed him to a minor league contract and assigned him to their AAA affiliate, the Norfolk Tides. It was a last-ditch effort to revive his career, but unfortunately, things only went from bad to worse. His time with the Norfolk Tides was brief, and his struggles at the plate continued. In the short span that he played for the Mets' AAA affiliate, he managed just a .129 batting average, a far cry from the numbers he had once put up in the majors. The hopes of a resurgence faded quickly, as he showed no signs of returning to his former self. His bat, once a reliable weapon, had gone silent, and his physical condition no longer allowed him to be the player he once was. On August 15th, less than 3 weeks after signing with the Mets, the organization made a difficult decision. They released him. It was another tough blow in what had already been a frustrating journey, and this time it seemed like the end was near. Once a promising young star with an all-star appearance to his name, Cordero now found himself without a team and without a clear path forward. His future in professional baseball was in serious doubt, and for the first time in his career, he was forced to face the reality that his playing days might be over. Despite this setback, Cordero wasn't ready to walk away from the game just yet. After sitting out the entire 2006 season, he decided to give it one more shot. In March 2007, the Mets extended him another opportunity, signing him to a minor league contract in the hopes that he could recapture some of his old form. It was a long shot, but it was a chance. One last opportunity to prove that he still had something left in the tank. However, this time, he didn't even make it past spring training. His performance in camp simply wasn't enough to convince the Mets to keep him around, and before the season even began, he was released. Unlike previous setbacks, there were no more teams waiting to offer him another chance. There were no more call-ups, no more minor league assignments, just a quiet realization that his time as a professional baseball player had come to an end. It was an unceremonious exit from the sport that he devoted his life to, but like all players, the day had finally come when he had to retire for good. Although his playing days were over, Cordero didn't walk away from the sport entirely. After stepping away from professional baseball, he found a new way to stay connected to the game he had dedicated his life to. Rather than leaving baseball behind completely, he transitioned into a mentoring role, working as a coach during the summers at Kuchter's Sports Academy in Great Barrington, Massachusetts. While the bright lights of Major League Baseball were now in his past, he embraced the opportunity to share his knowledge and experience with young players who were eager to learn. For Cordero, coaching was more than just teaching the mechanics of hitting or fielding. It was about passing on the lessons he had learned throughout his career. He understood the challenges of making it in professional baseball, from dealing with the pressure of high expectations to overcoming injuries and setbacks. By working with aspiring athletes, he could help them develop not only their skills on the field, but also the mental toughness needed to succeed in such a competitive sport. His time at Cushers gave him a chance to give back to the game that had given him so much. Whether he was guiding young players through drills, offering advice on improving their swings, or simply sharing stories from his playing days, he found fulfillment in helping the next generation grow their passion for baseball. And that wraps up today's video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.